Our next speaker has worked with such clients as Ragu, Grubhub, Snyder's of Hanover, and Little Caesars. On a related note, this is the presentation before lunch. Here to tell you a story about storytelling and the art of out-of-home creative, one of the real madmen of Madison Avenue. Welcome, please, the founder and chief creative officer of Barton F. Graf 9000, Gerry Graf.
But I'm a creep.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for having me. I know lunch is coming up, so we're going to roll through this. All right. Hi. Real quick, my name's Gerry Graf. I started an agency about 5 years ago called Barton F. Graf. Before that, I was Chief Creative Officer at Saatchi & Saatchi in New York, and before that, Chief Creative Officer at TBWA in New York. You've had some really interesting talks, and you will have some really interesting talks, about measurement, integration, digital technology, mobile data, strategic media planning, localization, programmatic advertising, a lot of serious stuff. I am here to talk about creativity. And since I am a creative director, I put it up top and bigger. So I'm also going to talk about the value of creativity. So I'm put here right before lunch, right? So I know I'm here to give you some great insights, but I'm also here for entertainment purposes to kind of like spice things up a little bit. And it just reminds me, like, I've had a 20-year career, and creativity was always spoken with those quote marks, It's like, oh, leave him alone, he's creative. Just humor him. And creative work, in my experience, was always seen as something extra that you do after you've done the hard-hitting, hard-sell stuff. That's all changed, in my experience, in the past 6-7 years. Because today, no one has to look or read or click anyone's advertising. They just can ignore it. There's too much. And what has to be done these days is you need great ideas. You need great ideas that people engage with, people share, people talk about. So that's why I'm going to talk about the value of creativity. So we're going to talk advertising and money today, if that's all right. Talk about the value of breakthrough ideas, because great ideas are the only way to engage. Great ideas, again, like I said, are what consumers share. But more importantly, clients, huge advertisers, have finally realized in the past 6 or 7 years that they need great ideas. That is what is going to sell their product. That is what is going to grow their brand. And because of this realization, that's why I started my company. So I'm going to tell you a little story, if that's all right. So six years ago, I was Chief Creative Officer of Saatchi & Saatchi, and my two biggest clients were General Mills and Procter & Gamble, some of the biggest advertisers, and traditionally some of the most conservative advertisers. And what I was noticing running these big accounts was some things that were going on. Right before I got to Saatchi & Saatchi, P&G took Old Spice from Saatchi and gave it to a very, creative agency, White & Kennedy. And we all know what happened with Old Spice. General Mills, the CMO, would call me up and inform me that there's some new projects coming up, but we're gonna give them to some more creative boutiques, which, didn't make me feel really good, right? It's like, I'm somewhat creative, I can do this. But it was a mentality that I was picking up on the client side on huge marketers who spent a lot of money and were traditionally conservative. And I realized that the value of creative ideas, breakthrough ideas, the value was finally at the top of the list, and it was never like that before. The importance of a breakthrough idea was always third or fourth. So thinking, you know, I'm a creative person, I could probably go out. I have clients asking me to win them awards. Why would a brand manager want to win an award? An award is a symbol. Win an Obie, win a Cannes Lion or something like that. Why would they want that? Because it's important to their job to show their bosses that they're creative. And all this was adding up in my head. So I wrote a business plan for an agency that would be devoted to creative ideas. Now, I'm not some creative genius. There's just a little bit more hard work to get to an idea that hasn't been done before. You have to go through all the ideas that have been done before, throw them away, and just try to do something different. It's really more late nights and weekends than it is some, you know, genius writer or art director. That's my opinion. But I knew there was money in representing a place that sells great ideas. So I did that. I started an agency. It's called Barton F. Graf. It's named after my dad. That's my dad right there. He was not in advertising. He sold semiconductors. But I just decided to name the agency after him. That's an oil painting that's there every day. It's right in our lobby. Every day when I come in late, his eyes stare at me, and I can see his face just go, oh, yeah, like that. Keeps me honest. And we've tried to devote ourselves. We always try to come up with great ideas, and sometimes we do. And it's worked. 5 years ago, we were 2 people, we're 68 people now. We've grown revenue every year for 5 years. And it has, you know, proven to me at least that the value of creativity is great. There's a big need for it, a big demand for it, and we try to supply it. So what's that have to do with out-of-home advertising? Well, it's been my experience that out-of-home has this creative power that nobody else has. Different from everything else, different from the internet and all the other media. And I learned this from some great teachers, mentors, and bosses. Here are some of the people who I have had to report to. Lee Clow, some of you might know, has created every Apple ad since Apple started advertising, except for that brief stint where they fired Jobs and they fired Lee. Jobs came back, Jobs hired Lee. He's in the Steve Jobs movie, and he taught me a lot. Don't let the Santa Claus surfer look fool you. He's the meanest boss you've ever had. He's a mean, mean man, but I learned a lot. So the chief creative chairman at TBWA. John Hunt, now the picture doesn't do him justice. He is also a chief creative officer at TBWA, and he was once the poet laureate of South Africa. I know he doesn't look that intelligent in that picture, but I learned a lot from him. And finally, I learned a lot from Jeff Goodby and Rich Silverstein of Goodby and Silverstein. I flopped the pictures though. That's Rich and that's Jeff. So let's show you what I learned from Lee. I remember the first story he told me was about a long, long time ago during the LA Olympics in the 80s. And I believe Adidas was the official sportswear sponsor of the Olympics. And Lee and TBWA Chiat were working on Nike, and they filled Los Angeles with this type of wonderful breakthrough out of home. It was everywhere. And when they did a poll on who was the sponsor of the Olympics, Nike came out above, and Nike didn't spend any money, on sponsorship. He taught me the lesson when he told me how he came up with this idea of owning a city and what the power of out-of-home can do to come in and just make a huge statement. Of course, he also did all the Apple work and think different. Interesting about this is Apple, I guess you could say, is the most successful company in the world today, and they devoted, or have devoted, the majority of their advertising dollars on out-of-home. And in sitting out there and having these beautiful, clear, simple ideas, and really making a statement of their bigness, even back here when they weren't that big. And they went on to do, everyone knows, just some phenomenal advertising. Love this one. It's fantastic. And then this is the newest one today, you know. I was in San Francisco at a client at the Bank of America building, and I'm on the 18th floor looking out to San Francisco, and I could see these, 5 of them throughout the city, just iconic boards. And again, you can't do this with any other medium. So, and then my own personal favorite on pedigree dog food, this was Lee Clow's personal account. Just fantastic stuff, dogs rule. Look at that. John Hunt did something incredible with Out of Home. This was a campaign against the Mugabe regime, a dictator, and from a newspaper called The Zimbabwean. This is kind of interesting. Mugabe raised the taxes on paper, and at the same time, the money was inflated beyond recognition. And to get awareness about what was going on in the country, John Hunt realized that the paper to print Out of Home on was more expensive than the actual money that would pay for it. So he simply took the money, real money, and did this campaign all over certain parts of Southern Africa. And it was an awareness campaign to get the world talking about what was going on, and it worked incredibly. When I was at TBWA, learning from these 2 great guys, I did something for Snickers way back when. And we were working with Snickers, and they were the #1 candy bar, at least in the States, and they had dropped down, and they wanted to regain their #1 status. And we told them that you are an icon, you have to prove to the world, to America, that you're an icon. And what can an icon do? They can do advertising without even using their name. And that's what we did. And when I took Lee Clow's idea of owning cities, I think we just did these Out of Home boards throughout 7 cities. Sales went up 12%, and they regained their #1 status. When I was at Goodby Silverstein, they were in the middle of this fantastic campaign that's still running, and these wonderful Out of Home boards, very simple, driving sales of milk. They've done some amazing stuff with Out of Home in the Got Milk campaign. This is a bus shelter. When you sit down, they pumped the smell of chocolate chip cookies out into the air. You can see people sniffing there. They actually had to shut it down because homeless people were coming by looking for the chocolate chip cookies, and the people of San Francisco thought that was cruel and unusual punishment, so they shut it down. But it spread on social like crazy. This is something Goodby did in the city of San Francisco for Yahoo, and it is an interactive game that you could play. The games are timed by the bus schedule, and you could play other bus shelters within the city, and there was this contest. You know, San Francisco is made up of these wonderful neighborhoods, so Nob Hill could go against the Tenderloin during, while sitting and waiting for a bus, and it was a fantastic way to, show the kind of technological breakthroughs that Yahoo was attempting to do. When I worked at Goodby, we also launched E-Trade. Very simple, 30-sheet stuff. One of them reads, "If your broker's so great, how come he still has to work?" Time for E-Trade. Someone's going to win the lottery, just not you. And my favorite one on the left there says, "Waiting for your rich uncle to die is sick, plus it might take a while." Now talk about the power of Out of Home and their ability to utilize the location that it's in. I don't think we did this on purpose. Unfortunately, the "Waiting for your rich uncle to die" was put in a bus shelter right in front of Cal Pacific Hospital. And we got PR, that's That's one PR strategy, piss off, the entire city. So what is, I want to talk about, that's the past, that's what I've learned in everything. And I want to talk about, out of home and the digital world. So the internet, as we all know, swallowed everything, almost. Swallowed magazines, swallowed newspapers, swallowed retail stores, music, radio, and it is eventually going to swallow TV. Every experience you had in magazines and newspaper, radio, and television can all be experienced online. And they're pretty soon, except for people who just like the touch of newspaper and doing the crossword, there really won't be a need for any of these. Now, like I said, it swallowed everything except out of home. You cannot replicate the grandeur or the real-life experiences of out of home online. So I'm going to go back to this idea for Snickers. And the strategy was for Snickers to regain its icon status. And we just did this advertising. This was all that ran. And it worked very well. And I believe something happened with out of home that couldn't happen anywhere else. I believe that when someone saw nougatosity, we combined nougat and speed, I guess, substantialicious, hungerectomy, peanutopoulos. When people saw this, looking up or at a Subway or something like that, and it didn't say Snickers, and their minds automatically knew it was Snickers, there was this real-life experience in their heads that immediately elevated Snickers up to where we wanted it to be, to icon status. And you couldn't do this anywhere else. So like I said, the internet cannot replicate out of home. And who knows this more than anybody else are the tech companies. And they've done fantastic out-of-home campaigns. This was for Google. Adweek gave it its best out-of-home campaign of 2014, I believe. It was, Google wanted you to walk around New York City, see this out of home, pull out your phone, interact with mobile and out of home, use the new Google application to discover where you were. Netflix in Paris, big out-of-home advertiser, used a digital board to show movie gifts, and they had over 165 gifts throughout Paris. Apple, of course, like I said, the most successful company, you could argue, in the world, just devoted to out-of-home. Yahoo, when they started, this was their most well-known ad. So I kind of relate it to, I'm sure everyone has read or seen The Hobbit, right? So I'm going to geek out for a little bit. I compare it to the aftermath of the Battle of the Five Armies and the question of whether out of home is the race of elves or the race of man. I don't know, let's have raise your hand if you want to be the elves. Nobody wants to be the elves. Okay, we're the race of man. All right, cool. What I'm talking about here is there was this big media battle, the Battle of the Five Armies, the internet, TV, media, radio, newspaper, and everyone fought, and there were two left standing, and that's how I see, there's the battle, and that's how I see where we are right now. We can be, I guess we've all voted to be Strider, okay? That's how I see media right now. There's the internet, there's out of home, and that's how I create. So, what can we do now? So, like I said, the internet cannot replicate out of home, but out of home can very easily become the internet with digital technology, data, and the use of screens. And there is just so much to be done to, again, realizing the importance of breakthrough ideas to show that out of home is the place where those big ideas belong. So I call it out of home the creative playground. So this is a very famous board done in London that it has an amazing creative use of data. It knows the flight patterns of British Airways flights, so that data is brought to the billboard. It's a digital screen, so when the planes fly overhead, the little boy goes pointing like that. It's a great use of data. And there's one thing I wanted to talk about too is technology is not an idea. I can interact with a billboard or out-of-home digital screen with my phone. That is not an idea. I remember 8 years ago, I had a client who came in and said, we're not going to do TV anymore. We have a Twitter idea. I was like, cool, what is it? And she said, we're going to be on Twitter. All right. I said, well, I have a TV idea. We're going to be on TV. That's an important distinction. The availability of data and technology and digital screens and the interaction with mobile simply makes the possibility of great ideas bigger. You can just do more, but you need to combine them into fantastic ideas that tell me something about my brand. Stop me in my tracks, give me a sales message, make me want to see it again, take a picture of it, post it on Facebook, and share it. That's what I'm talking about with the value and the power of creative ideas, and that's what out-of-home can do. So again, this is just a fantastic idea using the technology of data. This was for Pepsi Max. That looks like a clear piece of glass that looks down the street, but it's actually a digital screen. There's a camera on the other side of the bus shelter shooting down the street, projecting that there. And if you look up to the top, you'll see UFOs flying around. All right, and Pepsi Max has this whole campaign strategy of things going to the extreme. So when you're sitting in this bus shelter and these UFOs just start attacking the buses, creating an extreme situation. There's another one where there's a sewer drain on the left there. Same idea. A giant octopus comes flying out, and it looks incredibly real. So again, simply using video technology and out of home is not an idea, but combining it with your brand and the brand strategy and creating this idea that people are going to share and talk about and get a clear selling point about your brand is just a great use of out of home. This is something we did, and this is going to talk about the use of location. So this is for kayak.com, the travel search site. Kayak had a problem. They were being mixed up with all the other travel agents or online travel agents, Orbitz and Priceline and all of them, when they were something very different. They were simply a search engine. They were a search engine that searched travel agents. So we made a big adjustment in their strategy and said from now on we are going to advertise that Kayak is a search engine. So where's the best place to kind of bring that to life? We brought these we got these digital boards in various airports. I think this is in San Francisco. And reads, travel sites respect us because we search them gently. It was 2 years ago when the TSA was getting some problems with people's privacy and stuff. Another one here, it's the enhanced pat-down of online travel search. So using location like only out of home can do, delivering a strategy and a clear selling point. There's also this wonderful trick that I learned from my days on E-Trade that I used when we did Kayak, which was picking locations where the board members seem to hang out is often a kind of a side media strategy that we've utilized. Half of those E-Trade ads were on the 101 going from San Francisco down to Palo Alto. These were all placed, in various airports, but specifically San Francisco, where the board of Kayak was coming in. And it's a wonderful placement trick where the board goes, wow, we're everywhere. This is fantastic. Again, the only out-of-home can use location, only out-of-home can give you this real-life experience. You look at this on a screen. If you saw this online, you're like, that's cool and stuff. If you were there when the moon had moved right above the Corona bottle, and using data, again, knowing when there was going to be a half moon to look like the line, and talking about nightlife for Corona, a wonderful example of the use of location and real-life experiences there. McDonald's did something similar for the sun, where they actually made a sundial of which food you should be thinking about at certain times of day. This is one of my favorite out-of-home executions that I've ever seen, and it's by IBM. And IBM wanting to be known for their smart ideas. So using the actual out-of-home placements as a smart idea, giving you you're experiencing the out-of-home, right? And again, it's this real-life situation. So the one in the blue covers you from the rain, gives you a ramp up on some stairs, or simply gives you a seat there. Again, wonderful, wonderful ideas that come from a clear strategy of wanting to be smarter that no one else can do. And I'm going to talk about a campaign I did for Clash of Clans. Clash of Clans is a mobile game, a little tiny mobile game that you hit on your phone, and their players were going up. I think they had about, at last count, about 70 million people playing, and we wanted people who played Clash and people who were thinking about playing this little mobile game to realize that it wasn't just a little mobile game, that it had this stature as great as other console games, as Halo, as great as some of the movies, and the fan base, the community behind everyone who played Clash of Clans. We wanted them to know that they had importance. So what we did is we went online and we looked at video uploads. You can play the game and capture it on video, and players were uploading that to various forums. And we were taking these little, pixelated game videos and looking at them and realizing there were these great epic stories in there. And one of them is this one. This is called The Legend of the Last Lava Pup. There was an actual game where a guy's army got completely wiped out, and there was this one little insignificant character in the game, the Lava Pup, who somehow destroyed the whole army. So we wanted that player and the community to know that you are telling epic stories. So what do you do when you want to let people know that you are telling epic stories? Well, you put it in Times Square, is what you do. And we own Times Square, we own the subway stations, we went into London, San Francisco, LA, and the whole strategy was to let the 70 million people who were playing and talking about this little mobile game, Clash of Clans, which isn't little anymore, that they were telling huge, important stories. And how do you act when you're huge and when you're important? This is how you act. And again, you could never do this anywhere else except with out-of-home. The campaign was shared around the world. I believe we were also in Tokyo and Korea, and that's what happens when you have a breakthrough out-of-home idea. It's the beginning of that journey that everybody wants. When I used to simply work on TV 10 years ago, we treated TV like the world premiere, and we wanted to funnel everybody online and create an online integrated campaign, kind of a journey to the product. And that's exactly what this Clash of Clans campaign did with out-of-home. It started the journey. Breakthrough ideas stop people, get them interested, people start sharing, they come online, and they go through the journey that you want them to do. And I don't think any other medium right now can do that. So again, creativity, I don't do this because I like making cool ideas and it's fun. I have to make a living. I have 3 kids and a wife in New York. I do it because I know 2 things. Great ideas break through, stop people, and sell. And huge global clients know this, and that the priority and the value, if you will, of great ideas is at the top. And I don't know anywhere else to create these great ideas, launch these great ideas than out of home. They break through, they're shared, they grow, they increase sales, and they make tons of money. And I always like to end with this quote here from Samuel Johnson: "No man but a blockhead ever wrote except for money." Like I said, it is fun to do sometimes. It's hard work, but we're in this fantastic moment in time in advertising and marketing where the great stuff, the stuff that used to have the quotes around it, is the most important stuff. And there's no other creative playground like out of home to do that, and I believe you guys should take advantage of that, and that should be a huge selling point. So like I said, I know everybody wants to go to lunch. I want to thank you. I'll open it up to some questions if you have any questions. Or if you're hungry, we can go. Thank you.